Time for the finals. We are on the draw, but we have a pretty sweet hand with Viper's Kiss and Furicous Cure as early defense, and then the bones to get us to our late game. Definitely not mulliganing. Let's see what our opponent brings to the final table. We have been quite fortunate with our draws so far. Can't really complain at all. I think I want to wait with the Furicous Cure and see what happens. There might be a 3-power creature, but also an Ordeal or just some kind of aura coming down, so okay. That doesn't look too threatening. I probably should have responded to that, but I'm going to Furicous Cure now. Responding is better, because then there's no God's Dwelling in response, and the opponent doesn't have the card from the Nylea's presence. So we get to read the bones here. Interesting. Nimbus Naya doesn't look too great here. We definitely want to draw some lands, but Nessian Asp is very, very nice. This is a close decision. We have 4 lands, and we have 2 6-drops in our hand. So if we just continue to draw lands, we are basically guaranteed to have very good plays. But if we keep the Nessian Asp and then we don't find the lands, then we are really in a bad spot. I think it's better not to be greedy and put both of these on the bottom, simply because lands are so important at this stage. It looks like we wouldn't have drawn lands for quite a while, so probably a good idea. Staunch-Hearted Warrior. So now we can drop the Baleful Eidolon to block it, or rip off Erebos, but that doesn't have any board impact whatsoever. Just going to cast the Baleful Eidolon. And there aren't too many tricks that allow the Staunch-Hearted Warrior to survive the Eidolon. There are some, of course, but alright. Fine with that. Okay, still no land, so very happy with the decision to put both non-lands on the bottom there. Fade into Antiquity. Yeah, we almost have to have take that because of the whip. And I have no reason to expect that the forest is particularly important for our opponent. Big question is if we want to block the Staunch-Hearted Warrior. Oh wow, Nylea's Emissary. Looks like the 6th land was pretty good. Can't block here. Land. Good. So now we Grey Merchant, gain back some of the life we've lost, and then we try to draw into a Sip of Hemlock next turn. Could also play the Whip, go down to 4, and then play the Grey Merchant. It's going to gain us a little more life because of Devotion. I think that's even better. And it's possible that we die here, but we can't really play around too much at this stage. If we draw a land to kill the Staunch-Hearted Emissary, it's still fine. Alright, 5/5 creature. So now we have the mana that we wanted, and we have a 1/3 lifelink, but a 1/3 lifelink is not all that exciting. So yeah, getting back any of these at sorcery speed isn't interesting for us. Grey Merchant isn't good enough against the Staunch-Hearted Warrior, but if we sip of Hemlock the Staunch-Hearted Warrior, then the Reverend Hunter is a huge problem. Could make the Reverend Hunter into a 4/4, but we can still not kill it with the Grey Merchant. We can play the Horizon Scholar and then try to double block the Reverend Hunter. I think that's our best line. That way we can still kill the Staunch-Hearted Warrior with Sip of Hemlock and then have a blocker for the 3/3 trample. I'm going to keep the island on top. and hope that we can survive this. Well, we should be able to survive this. It's unlikely that Reverend Hunter attacks here, because we have a very good block for it, and that block gains us 5 lives, so we survive the Stone-Sharded Warrior. Blocking with the Disciple is somewhat unfortunate because of Grey Merchant of Asphodel, but I don't see a way around that. Alright, still a 7/7 to worry about, but we have the Sib of Hemlock. If we cast that, opponent has a 3/3, so if he attacks with everything, the Reverend Hunter, we need to block the Reverend Hunter, so maybe putting the Viper's Kiss on the Reverend Hunter is a good line here. We could also Sib of Hemlock the Reverend Hunter, but then we definitely need to chump block, so that doesn't make any sense. We can't whip back anything meaningful right now. Let's just see if this works out. We can't really beat a trick here, so I'm just playing out my cards. And I'm maybe should have kept the land on top so that I was guaranteed to be able to Monstrosity the Kraken. That might have been a mistake. So far things are looking fine because the whip is gaining us the life that we need. Shipwreck Singer. That's not too bad. The Shipbreaker Kraken is most likely better. Grey Merchant of Asphodel would make sure that we are pretty far ahead here. I like to get the Kraken out though. It is a 6/6 lifelink creature, and if we draw the 8th land, it's just going to devour our opponent's side of the board. I think it taps them, yeah. There's the land. However, we don't know what the last card in our opponent's hand is, so I think I want to get back the Disciple with the whip and then check out what our opponent is up to, which also allows us to still play the Grey Merchant of Asphodel. Okay, oh, it doesn't. Okay, I miscounted there. And also tap the blue, so I won't be able to do anything with that. Yeah, that was an oversight. But it's still good to know that opponent is on nothing here. Would be better to have the Shipwreck Singer in play, obviously, but hopefully that isn't coming back to bite us. Opponent did have one draw step here to find something, but okay, he's conceding. I still think it was correct to check out our opponent's hand first. It was just incorrect to tap the islands because I thought we had the mana for Grey Merchant, but we didn't. But we won anyway, so yeah, this is just a couple of green 3/3s, and with the Bestow, the 4/4, 7/7. Yeah, at some point these creatures get pretty huge, and we passed upon all the grip tides and, well, mostly the grip tides that we could have had. So the question is if we have something else that works here. I can only think of Guardians of Meletis really, because Fellite Minotaur is really bad against green. It doesn't block the 3/3s and it doesn't block the 4/4s and so on. I like Guardians of Meletis quite a bit. Question is if we can find a card that's not too exciting. The Grey Merchants are actually only mediocre against green, I think. Nimbus Naiad, I want all the cheap cards, I think. And Viper's Kiss, it's never amazing. We haven't really seen any good targets, but I was happy to have it as a cheap card. I think it's weaker than Guardians of Meletis. If our opponent shows us a 1 toughness creature, we can bring it back in. But having 1 Guardians is hopefully going to help us out here. We haven't seen too many monstrous creatures from our opponent, so opponent is with a mulligan on the play, and we have Shipwreck Singer and Rip of Erebos. We are missing the second Swamp, but I kind of like this hand because of the potential of the Shipwreck Singer. Not going to mulligan. It isn't the best hand ever, that's for certain, but I can think of a lot worse hands. Okay, now we really need the second Swamp. I think that we want to play the Phalanx, because it's sweeter to let people attack into the Phalanx, but it's just so much more mana efficient to play the Triton now and then have the Phalanx next turn with this activated ability, that I think I have to play the Triton here. Oh wow, Spear of Heliod. It's Glorious Anthem, and it destroys creatures that dealt damage to our opponent. So we actually could have dealt quite a few damage here with the returned Phalanx, but we get an Opaline Unicorn instead, which is also nice. Which I want in play because of the Whip and the Pharika's Cure. Nothing? Okay, opponent just keeping up Spear of Heliod here. So Rip of Erebos isn't all that interesting. I think we can just play Returned Phalanx instead. Don't think we have to fear anything here. And I'm not going to attack into the active spear, of course. Okay. Looks like our opponent just mulliganed into a threat light hand, but Spear of Heliod is a good reason to keep a hand like this. At some point we might be able to attack, but well, not with these cards. But to be fair, the Guardians aren't doing anything, but Viper's Kiss wouldn't have done anything either. Kind of hesitant to play the Whip here because we know that our opponent has some enchantment removal, but I want to get some stuff on the board, and the Whip certainly qualifies. I'm gonna hold back the Guardians. Who knows if this impacts our opponent's decision making. This is a pretty weird game. Alright. Just a regular 2/5. Oh, now we're talking. Reaper of the Wilds. Whenever that creature dies, scrap 1. Now this turn, I don't really see any creatures dying. But we definitely want to get the Reaper out there. And we can make a small attack. The question is... Okay, this is targeted, so the Reaper is actually huge against the Spear. That means that we want to definitely keep the Hexproof ability active. And the Shipwreck Singer probably wants to get in for a point, but all the others want to stay back. Yeah, kind of like that. Let's see how good the Reaper turns out to be. Nihilia's Disciple, it's a good card. But it's not good enough to kill Reaper of the Wilds on its own, so... Let's see if we get to attack here. Ah, it looks like it. It's possible that our opponent tries to kill the Reaper with Spear of Heliod, but then we just give it hexproof. Now this means that we won't be able to cast the Kraken this turn, but we aren't really in a hurry. And there might be other tricks our opponent is up to. Okay, your block is also really interesting. We have a 4/5 lifelink, and it's blocked by a 4/4. So yeah, there's a trick. +2/+2. So our Reaper is going down, but we take the Disciple with us for a single black. Yeah, that's a fine trade, I think. And it means that we get to cast the Kraken, which is also very important. So let's see what we scry. Yeah, a Swamp. That's interesting because we have 7 mana and this is the 8th one, so Shipwrecker Kraken could get activated. And that threat alone is probably worth quite a bit. It would force our opponent to keep up the spear at all time or just lose to it. On the other hand, we are going to draw that 8th land at some point. So just we don't necessarily have to draw it next turn. I'm still just going to keep it on top, I think. We are pretty far ahead and there is no reason to risk that. One turn without spear mana is going to cost our opponent. We could potentially also just lose the Kraken on purpose as long as it deals 10 and then Whip of Erebos it back at some point or some combination of this. We could also do is oh, okay, the whip is gone. It looks like nothing we can do about that. Didn't do too much this game, but I think we are fine. So now we already know what we draw. We draw the 8th land, and the Spear of Heliod is up, so I'm not interested in attacking, but I'm going to keep up the mana for Shipbreaker Kraken. By now, Viper's Kiss would have probably been better because stopping Karametra's Acolyte sounds pretty good. It's doing a lot of work for our opponent here. We can force the Nessian Cursor to attack and then give it -1/-1 and just eat it with the Kraken. Although having the mana for the Kraken up is probably more important. We don't want to expose the Kraken to a combat trick. Okay, this is a land that would have also been pretty nice. I think we just drop the Guardians here. It's a nice blocker. Now we don't have a mana for the Kraken, but that's not very important. If my opponent goes into beginning of combat, then I'm just going to force the creatures to attack. Okay. The Acolyte can always tap to prevent that, but it doesn't really cost me to do that. Okay, it looks like the Acolyte would actually attack here. So I'm not going to activate this again on the cursor, because if I can get the Acolyte here, I'm very happy about it. This could mean that there is a Divine Verdict waiting for us, maybe. So I probably don't want to expose the Kraken because it's my best creature by far. If I block with these two, that's 4 damage, so I can give attacking creatures -1/-1. Yeah, and we still have the Furicus Cure. Let's see, let's put some stops here. We might want to let damage resolve and then activate the Singer. Okay, Wave Crash Trident is first. Feral Invocation. This means we are still killing it, right? I think we are. Now we activate this. Well, we can still kill it, that's what I meant. And it's not killing anything of ours, so putting the Wave Crash Trident first is really weird against the Shipwreck Singer. Basically, it doesn't really make sense. I'm just gonna use the Furicus Cure here. It looks like a very good use of a spell. Pretty good value. Okay, more lands. Just gonna play them. At some point we can probably attack with everything, and then our opponent is forced to kill the Kraken with Spear of Heliod. And we swing it in again. But we don't have enough damage here. Only 6 next to the Kraken, so... On the other hand, there isn't much our opponent can do either, so... Except sitting on the spear. Do I want the Nesting Cursor to attack? Yeah, why not? Kind of want to block with the Kraken at some point. Which is bad against Divine Verdict, but good otherwise. I might just do it now. I think I can risk it because I have the 8 mana available. If it's Divine Verdict, then that's unfortunate, but yep. All right. No third land, well, no third untapped land, so the spear isn't activating this turn, which means that we can get in for some damage. Read the bones. Nessian Asp and Read the Bones. That's a sweet hand. Let's keep both of these. Exactly what we want. And then we can play Nessian Asp. And animate this. And get in for some damage, which is kind of difficult for us, so dealing 5 here is pretty nice. And now we also have the Nessian Asp, which turns into an 8-9. We are still on 25 life. We've lost the Shipbreaker Kraken to Divine Verdict, but that would have happened at some point or the other. Now drawing Read the Bones into Read the Bones is huge. Opponent is basically operating on 3 lands the whole game, the whole time, because every hit we get in with Nessian Asp is a huge deal. It's almost fun to play against Spear of Heliod because you have to, well, the rules of the game change, but not only for you, but also for your opponent. Reverend Hunter, 5/5. This is a pretty good, a big creature most of the time. Kind of like it. Let's draw some more cards. That's mostly lands. Banished Heart can get us 2 more lands, but is very unexciting otherwise. I think we have we have enough of this, but we don't really need the Heart. Nimbus Naiad is a lot nicer. We can make one of our creatures flying and then potentially do something nice with it. Wavecrash Trident is always a nice target for Nimbus Naiad, but I think we want to make Nessian Asp monstrous first. Let's get that done, and then we can decide how to deal some damage. Probably want to force opponent to attack again at some point. Especially if it forces him to use some kind of tricks. Can't really do it this turn though, because I want to make Nessian Asp monstrous. Let's see what happens here. If we aren't attacked this turn, it's also not bad. And we might also just attack for lethal pretty soon. If we put Nimbus Naiad on returned Phalanx, that's 5, 6, plus 8, so the Nessian Asp might have to be blocked already. If we put it on Nessian Asp, that's 10 in the air, 11, so not quite lethal. I don't think that I want to force my opponent's creatures to attack this turn. That might be better than activating Monstrosity. No, I'll just play this safe. I think I have nothing to lose here. Every turn that goes by where our opponent isn't using his mana at all, and we just get the Nessian Asp, has to be pretty good. Now we have at least a swamp on the bottom from the bones, so if we fetch the land or not doesn't really make a difference. I think we can just draw the card first. Okay, it's a land. So yeah, Spiel of Heliod is up, so what we want to be doing is just force these to attack and then see what kind of position that leaves our opponent in, and then probably put Nimbus Naiad on something, but I don't want to put it on Nessian Asp this turn because I'm not going to attack with it anyway. We have all the lands that we need, so we're going to force our opponent to attack with the Shipwreck Singer, and then if he doesn't play a blocker, we can see what we want to be doing. Probably just get in for a huge chunk of damage. But what I also like is just to try to eat the creatures. We can just put Nessian Asp in front of Reverend Hunter, and that would have to be a very good trick on our opponent's side of the board. This is probably the best way to do it. Slowly but surely eating our opponent's side of the board. This is a nice block, and this block doesn't cost us anything. I don't want to offer up my returned Phalanx when I don't have to. This looks like it's just resolving. Yeah, we'll allow that. We also have a couple of Grey Merchants left, so that's also good cards to draw. Let's just continue eating our opponent's creatures. Centaur Battlemaster. So this one is a little more dangerous, because it might grow out of proportions. Okay, that was a great draw, because we were looking for one more beefy creature to get through damage. And I will keep the Grey Merchant on top. Now, next turn is going to be the turn where we want to attack. So I'm going to wait one more turn. Chosen by Heliot. So this is a 7/9. Seven nine is pretty good. Leonin Snarecaster is not the most threatening. Okay, this looks like our opponent doesn't have anything else to pair with the Battlemaster. At least, well, it could mean that. I'm not forcing the Battlemaster to attack, because it's in our opponent's interest to do so. Guardians of Meletis could just get in the fray there. I don't really want to risk losing one of my good creatures to anything, so I'm just going to chump block here. Alright, so now the Nessian Asp is going to untap, but the problem is that the Snarecaster can still chump block, and I don't want to have my opponent chump blocking against the spear. What I could do is put Nimbus Naiad on Nessian Asp and just attack with all the flyers. That sounds pretty good. I was going to put Nimbus Naiad on Wave Crash Triton, but I think that's an even better line. That way the spear alone won't help our opponent, so it's quite likely that he needs more than that. Okay, didn't have it, looks like. Interesting game, because we had to play against the spear, but our opponent, our deck was very well suited to do that. Not at least because of the 2 Read the Bones. I'm still not sure if we played it 100% correctly, but it was definitely interesting from a strategic point of view. Alright, that's it for this week. I'm Simon Götzen, recording Simon Says for mtgoacademy.com. Check out my other videos if you want. I hope you watched the opening discussion, and then see you in 2 weeks. Bye bye.